Of course, it's obvious, they sneered. We didn't bother sending an email to you. Why waste resources on a useless freeloader like you, just eating away at the company's profits? It's all about cutting costs. Aaron was the old man's favorite, making him hard to deal with, but finally, that thorn in our side is gone. With him quitting, there's no place for a deadbeat like you. Finally, the deadweight realizes his worthlessness and decides to quit. This is indeed a cause for celebration. Now we can finally get rid of the trash heap that is the product development department. At that moment, I swore to myself that I would never forgive these two despicable people. Please don't come crying to me later. I'm done with you all. My name is Jasper. I'm a 40-year-old office worker. Born and raised in a rural town in Kentucky, surrounded by the sea and mountains. I was always a bit different, not wanting to do what everyone else did. You could say I was a highly creative child. During elementary school, when everyone was into popular games and activities, I never got hooked. Instead, I made up my own games and toys, reveling in my own world. Looking back, it was a bit strange. But it wasn't like I was ostracized or disliked by my classmates. I was just the odd one out, not wanting to do something just because everyone else was doing it. I attended local public schools in Kentucky through high school, but for college, I moved to a national university near Chicago, majoring in engineering. Coming from a family of ordinary office workers, not particularly wealthy, I couldn't ask my parents to send me money during my college years. So, I worked various part-time jobs to support myself, from the classic waiter to day-paid moving help to tutoring. Among these jobs, I found one where my creativity could shine. Helping at an invention office. Ever since I was a child, I loved to imagine and create, and this job involved coming up with ideas for household items and daily necessities. The pay was minimal, just an hourly wage, as the office owned the patent rights. But it greatly inspired my inventive spirit and was a fun job. College passed quickly, and unlike many of my peers, I chose not to pursue further studies, but instead to start working after my bachelor's degree. I didn't want to burden my family financially any longer. I joined Sunset Trading Co., a mid-sized company combining a trading firm and a construction business, with branches in the Northeast and Midwest. I chose this company because the previous president promoted a free spirit, encouraging employees to take on whatever they wanted to pursue. For the first 3 years, I worked on various construction sites and visited customers as a serviceman. Eventually, I learned the ropes, and the department head of the operations division was replaced by a man named Aaron. He embodied the founder's spirit of taking on challenges, and soon approached me. "You're good at inventing, right? How about joining a new section in the operations division? We're gathering people like you to form a product development department." Under Aaron, a completely new department was formed. For almost 15 years, I worked there, eventually being promoted to the head of the product development department. As mentioned earlier, the main reason I joined this company was its policy of letting employees freely pursue their interests. Indeed, the product development department wasn't immediately profitable, often consuming more budget than generating revenue. The establishment of such a non-profit-centric department was only possible because of the existence of the former president. I specifically use former because he has already retired. About a year ago, the energetic founder of Sunset Trading Co., Mr. Snyder, who tirelessly worked across the country, suddenly fell ill. He survived, but his illness required a long hospital stay and rehabilitation, which impacted his daily life, leading to his retirement. Mr. Snyder had a son, Connor. At 31, Connor was already the executive director of Sunset Trading Co. But with his father's sudden retirement, he assumed the role of the new president. However, Connor was, to be frank, an inexperienced rich kid, wholly unsuited for company management or leadership. Even during his time as an executive director, he was nothing more than a figurehead, often mockingly referred to as the do-nothing director by the employees. When Connor took over as the second-generation president, something disturbing happened. The rise of his sycophants, who were previously low-level workers. Ellis, a field salesman, was a prime example. Ellis was comically opportunistic, becoming an embarrassing cheerleader for Connor. Without doing much substantial work, he was suddenly promoted to the head of sales by Connor's decree. Ellis started targeting my department, the product development division. This department is a huge loss for the company, eating up the budget without any productivity. I'll make sure the president fires every single one of you bottom feeders. Since becoming head of sales, Ellis would come to our department, look down on us, and openly mock us with such disdain. He was undoubtedly exaggerating the product development division's bad reputation in his reports to Connor. One day, while discussing the next broad strategy with Aaron, the second-generation company president, Connor, appeared. He was followed by his entourage of yes-men, resembling a feudal lord's procession. Just like a butler, Ellis, as chief sycophant, was always by Connor's side. "Is there something you need, Mr. President?" Aaron, with a puzzled look, asked. Looking down at us, Connor replied, "Need something," as if, since I became president, I'd been working on reforms to eliminate waste within the company. "You're the manager, you know that, right?" "Yes, I understand the goal of eliminating waste and improving efficiency." Then Ellis, with a smug look, interrupted. "The waste that's hindering our efficiency is your operations department. Wake up." Aaron, frustrated by Ellis' ridiculous remarks, ignored him and remained silent. Connor then added fuel to the fire. Internally, there's criticism that the operations department, especially the product development division led by Jasper, is just a bunch of incompetent freeloaders. Now that I'm president, I'm thinking of gradually shutting down such useless departments. Connor, with his smug attitude and baseless opinions, left both me and Aaron in disbelief. Aaron, usually calm, glared sharply at Connor, saying, "Your father, the former president, would be dismayed to hear such foolish ideas. Don't you realize how valuable the operations department, particularly this product development division led by Jasper, is to this company? You're just an inexperienced rich kid. Think again." I was shocked to see Aaron, a gentle and intelligent man, rebut someone so strongly. Connor, just a naive rich kid, was taken aback and fell silent. Embarrassed, Connor muttered, "I don't like dealing with this guy," and hurriedly tried to leave. However, Ellis, seizing the moment, left a parting shot. "Pretty bold for an old man, Aaron. Just because you're old and have been here long doesn't mean you get to talk down to us. You outdated relic. Do you think you're more important than our president here? Just a manager of the operations department. And you're getting all high and mighty. Anyway, the operations, especially the product development division, are nothing but a drain on the hard-earned revenue our sales team brings in, and yet, you dare oppose the president. Live in fear of getting fired, Aaron. And you too, Jasper, you're useless." After Connor and his entourage left, Aaron confided something unexpected to me. He suddenly revealed his plan to leave the company soon. Aaron explained that he had been thinking about it for a long time. He wanted to reevaluate his career, skills, and connections built over the years at the company. I had been fighting with the philosophy of the former president in mind. But now that he's no longer with us, it seems what I'm doing has lost its meaning. Add in the fact that Connor, who took over as the second-generation president, is too foolish and inept for words. So, he unexpectedly confided in me that he had decided to leave the company soon. Aaron noticed me in my 4th year at the company, and he created a perfect section for me. Since then, we have been working together as if in tandem, so the shock of his departure was immense. That's how it is. Can't be helped. But Aaron, make sure you invite me to your farewell party. We've known each other for 15 years, after all. Seeing Aaron's determination, I decided to hide my complex feelings and send him off cheerfully. Busy days continued, and one morning, 3 weeks later, while I was checking my schedule at my desk, a subordinate from the product development division came and said, "Chief, you weren't at Aaron's farewell party last night. He was disappointed you weren't there." Surprised, I asked, "A farewell party? Last night? I didn't hear about it. Why? Why wasn't I informed?" "There was a notice sent by email from the president and Ellis, the head of sales, to all employees a few days ago. And since you were out all day yesterday and went straight home, I think no one thought to bother you." I was stunned to hear this explanation. I check every internal email, but I never received such an email. Suspicious, I immediately went to the president's office. Entering the office, I found Connor and Ellis, his ever-present sidekick. When I mentioned that I hadn't been informed about Aaron's farewell party, Ellis gave an unexpected response. "Of course we didn't send the email to you. Why would we waste resources on a useless freeloader like you? Just eating away at the company's profits. It's all about cutting costs." I was so stunned I couldn't speak. Then Connor piled on, "Aaron was a favorite of my dad's, hard to deal with, but finally, that thorn in our side is gone. With him leaving, there's no place for a deadbeat like you." Connor suddenly demanded my resignation. I was so angry and desolate, I left the president's office without a word. I went to see Aaron, but I was told that from today, he wouldn't be coming to the office again. That night, I couldn't sleep a wink, overwhelmed by frustration, anger, and sadness. The next day, totally demotivated and pondering when to submit my resignation, my phone rang. It was Aaron. "Hello, Chief. Sorry I couldn't make it to the farewell party. I didn't know about it, or when your last day was." Interrupting my hurried explanation, Aaron said with a laugh, "It's okay, it's okay. Actually, I'm starting my own business. Why don't you join me?" Aaron's sudden invitation to join his startup was unexpected, but the timing was perfect, so I immediately accepted. "Yes, I'd be happy to." Then, I went straight to the president's office, where I found Connor and Ellis again. I stepped forward and slammed my freshly written resignation letter on the desk. Seeing this, Connor and Ellis looked at each other and burst out laughing. Finally, the deadweight realizes his worthlessness and decides to quit. This is indeed a cause for celebration. Now we can finally get rid of the trash heap that is the product development division. I despise these two despicable people from the bottom of my heart and said, "Please don't come crying to me later. I'm done with you all." They doubled over with laughter. "Ha ha ha, the howl of a losing dog. Never thought we'd hear it in real life. You're the one crying, you're hilarious." Turning my back on the two who wouldn't stop their mocking laughter, I left the president's office. I returned to my department and gathered my subordinates to say a brief farewell. Many in the product development division were serious and honest, and some even cried and tried to stop me from leaving. Seeing this, I said, "I won't leave you, my comrades, in misfortune. I promise to ensure you are rewarded, so please bear with it until that day comes." With a heavy heart, I left the Sunset Trading Co., where I had worked for many years. Afterward, when I called Aaron to report my resignation, Aaron responded, "Great, now, you've escaped from that rotten den of devils. Next, it's time to retaliate against those villains who run that place, and get our revenge. They plan to shut down the product development department. I'm worried about the subordinates I left behind," I said. And Aaron laughed loudly. "Don't worry, they are some of the most outstanding employees in that company. I've got that covered. Most of all, if the product development department collapses. It's the stupid president and the sales team who will be in trouble, Haga." "Indeed, that's true, Haga." We laughed together over the phone. The following week, I began working at Aaron's newly established company, Exponential Curve Company. It was a company similar to a wholesale trading firm and a contractor, making it a direct rival of my previous company, the Sunset Trading Co. Aaron had been a highly capable foreman at our previous company, with countless transactions made possible because of him, and a strong network built over many years. He had long fantasized about starting his own business, with quite detailed plans in his head. However, it had always been just a fantasy. That's because Aaron, being the right-hand man of the former president and deeply respecting him, had always sealed away the thought of betraying the Sunset Trading Co. and starting his own venture. But the tide was about to turn significantly. The former president fell ill suddenly and retired, with his foolish son Connor taking over. Connor's malicious and incompetent cronies began to take control and privatize the company. At that point, the Sunset Trading Co. I knew no longer existed. That's when I felt no more obligation to the company and started preparing to launch my own business about a year ago. Aaron explained. The company, run by the clueless Connor and Ellis, who had no real accomplishments and only gained his position by sucking up to Connor, was clearly heading nowhere. I was planning to poach you right after I left, Hada, and also your capable subordinates from the product development department. We're almost ready to welcome them. Without me, the construction department workers and the skilled craftsmen we had contracts with are likely to grow tired of a company like that and eventually join us, Aaron said. I was amazed at Aaron's ability, his network, his credibility, and that he even incorporated a revenge plan into his actions. It seemed like a perfectly calculated move. And lastly, the most fatal thing for them is that they let you go. You understand that, right, Haga? I laughed and nodded. That second-generation fool Connor and Ellis, who became the sales director by flattering Connor, were completely unaware of how key I was in all aspects of the Sunset Trading Co. business. Soon after, as Aaron predicted, the Sunset Trading Co. contractor department started to fail. The site workers, who had their contracts terminated, all moved to the Exponential Curve company. These craftsmen had previously been managed by Aaron, who scheduled their daily tasks. When Aaron left and Connor's cronies took over, the workflow became a mess, leading to constant troubles on the sites, infuriating the craftsmen. Then, when Aaron started his own company and began contractor operations, the craftsmen were eager to join him. Even the arrogant Connor and his subordinates suddenly became humble, begging them to stay, but no independent craftsman would accept such a selfish offer. More satisfying events followed. The product development department, which Connor and Ellis had been treating as a burden and planning to shut down, preemptively quit en masse one day. Connor and Ellis, clueless about the real situation, initially gloated. So they collapsed without us having to lift a finger, Haga. But soon, they were shocked by the severity of the situation, as complaints began pouring in from customers to the sales department. Each complaint echoed the same sentiment. We did business with you because of the advantages of having incentive contracts with the product development department. Now that it's gone, there's no reason to deal with you. In reality, the company's product development department had been continually conceptualizing new product ideas, packaging them, and securing patents. They had gained many customers, especially manufacturers, by leasing these patents, which brought significant contract fees to the company. Learning this for the first time, Connor turned pale. He frantically tried to contact the former product development employees by phone and email, only to find all lines unreachable. They had all changed their numbers and personal email addresses before leaving. The internal group messaging had been cleverly closed off for the product development department, leaving no way to contact them. Connor, in a half-crazed state, lashed out at his yes-man, Ellis. It's all your fault, claiming the product development department was just a burden eating up resources. I believe that nonsense. You take responsibility. But Ellis defiantly retorted. But you, as president, said to crush any unnecessary departments. The operations department, favored by your father, was an eyesore that needed to be removed, right? Shut up, be quiet. Are you talking back to the president? Watching this ugly blame game unfold daily, the remaining employees of the company became completely disillusioned, resigning one after another daily. Of course, it goes without saying that the employees who had simultaneously quit the product development department all joined us at the Exponential Curve company. This was all part of Aaron's scheme. In just over 6 months since its establishment, the Exponential Curve company quickly got all its operations on track and expanded explosively. Like the product development employees and craftsmen, we tried to pick up as many people as we could who were escaping or spilling over from the sinking ship of the Sunset Trading Co. But even so, we didn't have enough employees for our rapidly growing company. We were constantly recruiting in large numbers. Starting next year, we plan to substantially replenish our ranks with new graduates. Business was so good that I was busy to the point of having no time to sleep. Then, one day, as Aaron and I were discussing a major product development deal with a big manufacturer we had just sealed, the office door opened and in came Connor and Ellis. Both sported unkempt beards, their suits and ties disheveled, their faces showing deep exhaustion and distress. They staggered towards us, suddenly sitting down on the floor, and to our surprise, they began to bow deeply. "Mr. Jasper, please, come back to us, we beg you," Connor pleaded in a pitiful, tearful voice. Ellis followed. "We had no idea all the patents developed by the product development department were in your name, Mr. Jasper, after you left. All our customers fled. We thought we still owned the patents, so we could just find new customers. That was a mistake." "That was indeed a mistake, Haga. That's why I warned you when I left. Don't come crying later, Haga." Connor was visibly deflated by my response, but Ellis, perhaps still hopeful, persisted. "I had no idea the marketing automation tool the sales department used was also your invention. And that you held the patent to it too, Jasper. Suddenly we couldn't use it anymore, leaving all our salespeople helpless." Aaron, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke up. "You threw away Mr. Jasper here, the company's hidden treasure, like he was just a burden. How could you think your company could continue using that tool? Are you dreaming, Haga? If you really wanted to keep using it, you should have bowed down to Mr. Jasper at that point, renegotiated a new contract, and paid a hefty licensing fee, but you just whine instead of taking action." Aaron can be quite intimidating when he's angry. Frankly, he has a rather stern appearance. Aaron's stern rebuke silenced Ellis, who looked clearly intimidated. Connor, next to him and overwhelmed with regret, raised his tear and snot-streaked face to make a desperate plea. "Mr. Jasper, Mr. Aaron, I was foolish. I apologize. I'll apologize as much as needed. Please, I'm begging you, come back and help us. If things continue this way, we're going to go bankrupt." Finally, Connor broke down, crying loudly without any regard for his dignity. Looking down at their disgraceful display, I felt not a shred of sympathy or pity, only contempt. What self-centered and despicable characters, only thinking about themselves, I thought. Aaron must have felt the same. As he spoke in a dismissive tone, "Stop crying like a baby. It's disgraceful. A naive, spoiled brat like you trying to lead an organization is fundamentally wrong. Especially someone as incompetent and malevolent as you, Connor. And to think, you surrounded yourself with sycophants like Ellis, cunning but useless. You will face judgment for all the wrongs you've done. Prepare yourself, and you owe a heartfelt apology to your father, the respectable former president. If he saw you now, after recovering, he'd weep at your disgrace, you unfilial son." Connor, struck by Aaron's words, just collapsed on the floor, weeping. However, Ellis, standing next to him, got up angrily, shouting, "Don't get too cocky, old manual," and tried to hit Aaron. However, Aaron easily dodged his punch, grabbed Ellis's arm, and threw him over his shoulder. Ellis, unable to break his fall, was slammed onto the office floor and lay there motionless. "Don't underestimate someone with judo experience," Aaron said with a laugh. "Have you ever thought about how many people you've caused suffering? You reap what you sow. Now live with reflection and regret." I said this, then ushered the desperate pair out of the office and locked the door. They continued to shout insults outside for a while, but when Aaron called the building's security, they reluctantly left after being warned. 5 months later, the Sunset Trading Co. filed for bankruptcy. After Aaron and I left, the company quickly fell into debt. The loss of longtime contracted craftsmen, the mass resignation of the product development staff, and the rapid loss of customers were the final blows, making recovery impossible. Ellis, once Connor's loyal lackey, showed a stunning about-face just before the company's collapse, betraying Connor and switching careers to become a salesman at a real estate firm. However, that firm was a textbook example of a shady business involved in illegal dealings. Greedy for big money, Ellis tried to sell illegal properties and was eventually arrested for fraud. Connor was stripped of his management rights and permanently expelled from the company. Abandoned by his flashy wife through a quick divorce, and eventually disowned by his father, the company's esteemed founder, he became reckless and got involved in borderline marriage fraud, scamming women out of large sums of money before getting sued. He was found guilty and sentenced to prison, now a resident behind bars. The Sunset Trading Co., having gone bankrupt, was eventually acquired by our exponential curve company, despite their faults. Connor and his father had benefited Aaron and I, and we couldn't bear to let their legacy disappear. 3 years have passed since then. The exponential curve company has expanded its performance and power, now boasting branches nationwide, and shows no signs of stopping. I'm swamped with complex tasks every day, but I'm living fulfilling and enjoyable days. As president, Aaron is rarely at the New York headquarters these days, constantly traveling across the country. Despite his busy schedule, he often wears a satisfied grin, thoroughly enjoying his hectic life.